peace, prosperity, and love, beautiful people. Welcome to Gracefully Imperfect, a podcast for the Black and African diaspora in material of socioeconomics, politics, religion, and so forth. The centrality of this podcast is immersive empathy, introspection, deep thought, soul-serving conversation and communication, all in the light of unlocking the keys to vulnerability and transformation. During our time together, we will engage in topics related to mental and spiritual health experiences, the intersectionality of mental health and creativity, identity and culture, and any and all things related to healing from trauma, gathering insights, cultivating a deep sense of knowing, and repairing soul wounds. In the essence of communal love and collective consciousness, let us open our minds, lighten our hearts, settle our spirit, access soul intelligence, and affirm the richness of our humanity.
Peace, love, and infinite blessings to all of you who are tuned in for another episode of Gracefully Imperfect. It is I, Kyle Toon, and I am so grateful to be co-journeying with all of you to unlocking the keys to vulnerability and transformation. Last episode was on the antidote to shame. So please, if you have not already, go and watch that video. It speaks about not only the impact and the effects of shame, but it also speaks to the resolution to assuage any type of shame feelings. So again, go and check that out. It is a great video, and I believe that it speaks to an experience that does not get enough attention, concentration, and discourse. So, beautiful people, today, in light of what's going on out here geopolitically, legally, politically, domestically wise, what's going on out here existential wise, death is all around us, bereavement is all around us, mass confusion is all around us. So we're in a state of perpetuating insanity. So in light of that, I just want to say that whatever you're going through, whether that being disheartenment, disillusioned, whether you are acutely or chronically stressed, whether if you're going through bouts of joylessness, going through angst and grief, or you're so numb and desensitized that nothing is coming up and all you want to do is escape and evade from the pervasive problems here in the United States. I just want you to know that those responses and those reactions to this phenomenon and so much more phenomenon is your body, your spirit trying to protect you and trying to safeguard that little bit of peace that you have. You're trying to hold on to that little bit of peace. And so I see you. I definitely do understand. And hopefully from this intimate conversation, this gives you a bit more insight and understanding and awareness that will raise your spiritual consciousness in a way. Well, it will drive you to be more vulnerable, disclosing, honest, truthful, and courageous. So for today's episode is inspired by being in spaces and interacting with people and finding myself in different places where on one hand, you truly believe and think and feel that it should go one way. And on the other hand, when you actually are embedded in said interaction or structure, something happens that totally goes in opposite of what you thought was going to occur. So in layman's terms, and to make it plain, I have found myself being surrounded around things that don't make sense, things that fundamentally do not make sense. Yet those around me and those institutions that I've been a part of continue to try to perpetuate it as if perpetuation is going to drive the point of this fundamental disconnection. I will be graduating this May with a Master of Social Work. And I've been in the social work program for 2 years now, since January 2023. And social work, in its essence, is a profession that champions social justice, human rights, human dignity and worth, and rehumanizing those who have been disenfranchised, marginalized, and systemically oppressed. And this is done through different specializations, different functions, different roles. I'm not going to get into all of that. I don't think that's the vital aspect of this intimate discussion. What is vital is that if being an advocate, like social workers are supposed to be, being an activist, of being politically, socially, economically, psychologically, spiritually, and religiously involved in all aspects of society in order to be that collaborator and that facilitator, that helper, that healer for communities and families, tribes, etc. A social worker must understand every layer. And if they don't understand every layer, they have to be willing to immerse themselves in every layer of society and of said person's community. So why am I bringing this up? What's the point? In this program, and just like other programs around the world, social work was birthed out of white privilege. It was, yeah, yes. Even though Black folk has been exercising social work since the beginning of time. And I won't even take it all the way back there. Just the civil rights movement, Harlem Renaissance. Yeah, whole lot of social work going on. Whole lot of uh, developing social programs to create social change. Whole lot of political advocacy to ensure that legislation and policies are fair and just and righteous. Whole lot of communication, whether that be through communication arts, literature, lecturing in the Black church, to as the impetus to improve and enhance one's consciousness on their social, political, economic, and cultural conditions. So before social work, became a coined discipline, we as Black folk has been doing social work since we were forced here from the beautiful motherland of Africa. So the fact that, and this is not just for social work, but I'm just going to contextualize it as so because of my personal involvement. And so in these programs, my program to be specific, fundamentally, we are supporters, facilitators, healers for the most vulnerable. Yet, through the curricular, we are pushed towards this ideology of being so inclusive and so universal. Last time I checked, there are faces to oppression. Last time I checked, we understand the historical legacy of European and Euro-American colonialism, imperialism, and enslavement. Last time I checked, through settlement, which then led to colonialism here in the United States, Native indigenous populations were forced from their land, the very land that they've been showing deep gratitude, appreciation, love, creating families, building families, sustaining families, creating their own institutions, conducting their religious rituals and ceremonies on, and cultivating and harvesting food for sustenance way before European invasion. Yet they were forced away from their land. They were brutalized. They were targeted. They were attacked. Their children were taken away from them through the authority of social workers. Black folk African Black folk, Africans, were forced in chains and brought to the United States and to the Caribbeans and to the West Indies and to Central and South America. And they were stripped away from their dignity. They were stripped of their cultural and ethnic heritage. Families were broken apart. Mothers, women were raped and assaulted and indignified. Men were emasculated. Children were brutalized. And they witnessed their family, their parents, undergoing this system of recognizing their inferiority. And I'm just keeping it specific about the United States, North America. And so there's many, many more historical contexts that speak to systemic oppression through the glorification of European or Euro-American colonialism. Yet, in the social work program, we are pushed to provide services and develop programs, be a part of programs, facilitate programs that are embedded within the same institutions that perpetuate the hurt, harm, and tragedy of the most vulnerable and the most oppressed. That is a head scratcher for me. And so I've been finding myself constantly not only confronting it and addressing it, but trying to really come to terms with my own spiritual consciousness on what it is that I can do to not be a part of that cycle, that reoppressive cycle. Now, I'm not saying that you can't go and work in these institutions. That's not the point of what I'm saying. That's kind of really not grasping the texture and the contours of what I'm saying. Because oppression and inequities have been baked in every fabric in an American institution, one really has to come to terms with, if I am a champion for the powerless, the voiceless, the helpless, who've been historically and systematically and dignified, have been stripped of hope, have been physically, psychologically, socially, emotionally, and culturally brutalized, then what is my role being in this institution? What is my role being in this institution? And what form of support and help and healing am I able to give from within? As long as values, principles, and motivations are associated and attached to the liberation and healing of oppressed disenfranchised and marginalized cultural groups, then it really doesn't matter if you're in an institution or not. But what's getting taught in these social work programs, to be specific, is to go with the status quo and take your knowledge and your skills with you. And as you're in these institutions, yeah, you can try to transform it. The reality is that you're going to conform and assimilate to that institutional and or organizational values, principles. So the social worker loses their courageousness, loses it. And that's a lot of times, that's where the burnout comes from, the spiritual distress, the moral injury. That's why social workers leave the field of social work, because they're constantly bombarded with ethical principles of social justice, yet institution and organizational standards is committing dehumanization acts. A social work student in their internship is holding on to the central principle and concept of self-determination. Yet in their internship, they are bombarded with overly bureaucratic administrative processes that, and their treatment for said group or individual or family has to be in alignment with these administrative standards that comes from the outside, from the external. So now treatment planning, the implementation of treatment, and even the conceptualization of treatment is all in alignment with meeting these documents. Sounds like a great injustice. And so I want to highlight that these essential themes of contradictions and paradoxes are confusion, manipulation, and incongruence. And this produces widespread psychological and social disunity, cultural dichotomy, familial division, spiritual distress, and alienation. And this type of thing manifests not just only in my social work degree program, it is everywhere. American politics, legislation, the Constitution, we the people. That's what it says in the preamble. We the people. Who's we? Who's we? Anyway, music. It manifests through music. Television and film. I think television and film and news type outlets manifests a lot of these central themes of contradiction and paradoxes, because it really wants to influence and create the perception of something in order to create social control. And religion. I grew up in the Black Baptist Church, and even with the whole concept of being God-fearing, when God wants us to, God, or the divine source, the divine supreme being, wants us to have authentic, genuine relationship with. Yet the concept of God-fearing is very misleading, and it misrepresents the loving and the accepting component of the supreme being. I want to leave you all with this quote, just for reflection, just to really, and to overlay it with this widespread confusion and widespread dichotomy and these fundamental disconnections. And I spoke about it from the context of being a social work grad student. There's other contexts, and I respect and honor that fully. So what is your context? And then use that context to overlay over this quote. And take some time to really and deeply think about how it manifests. It manifests social disunity, psychological distress, spiritual distress, the dichotomy of families and culture groups, the alienation of self. And the quote is, Black people cannot be equal in a society that is fundamentally unequal. Dr. Amos Wilson. This has been a phenomenal, intimate conversation. I thank you all for staying through this. I know talking about these different topics can be, it can be a lot. And the thing about vulnerability is that there has to be a level of risk and exposure in order to create the alchemy that you and I and all of us rightfully deserve. So please come on back. Let's have another conversation. Let's be intimate. Let's bring our emotional selves. Let's bring all of our intelligences, all of our experiences, and let's unlock the keys to vulnerability and transformation, one conversation at a time. Peace, love, and infinite blessings, and great and excellent health to all of you.